You don't need to flex with the language. No one wants to hear about how magnificent your service is. People want to hear what the words are that are inside of their own head.
Yes.
So you got to figure out, what are people saying inside of their head? Go and post some surveys, do some interviews, read the comments under social posts, follow pages about this problem. Start seeing the patterns. It's, oh, okay, I can see that. Like most people, when they describe this problem, use these exact words. Okay, that's you doing your homework. Now you can be like, okay, when I write my big headline in my sales page, when I come up with my first hook in my sales video, I'm going to use the exact words that people are echoing inside of their brain.
The Mindspo podcast.
What do you see with your mind's eye?
Welcome back. Let's elevate. Roll your shoulders up and back. Unclench your jaw. Elongate your spine as you take a deep breath in. And now, exhale. Now take your mind to that person, place, or thing that you have gratitude for and start to feel into the joy available to you at all times. Elevate into a higher vibration as we expand together and dive into this conversation. Welcome back to the Mindspo podcast. You are tuning in for another episode of Deep Diving with the Souls. I am here with my partner in crime, my partner in life and in business, the co-founder of Mindspo and Manifestie, Soll. Hey, baby.
Hello. hello. Back again.
You are back again. We are doing another much requested episode. We did our first volume of this the other week, and it was all on conscious entrepreneurship, which was the first time we have dived into business on the Mindspo podcast, and you loved it. Everyone listening loved it. We got so much beautiful feedback from that episode. So if you want another episode like this, you can go back. We'll put it in the show notes to the first volume of Conscious Business. And this is something we could talk about a lot. And we wanted to dive into 3 more things that could be really helpful on your business or entrepreneurial journey. As we said last episode, whether you're on an entrepreneurial journey or not, these things will really help you in life. They're all little mindset tricks and hacks and shifts. And I really do feel like entrepreneurship is life school. I've learned more from entrepreneurship than I have learned from really anything else in my life. It is constantly putting us through tests and tribulations, highs and lows. So I'm really excited to get into this one.
And as am I.
Can I just do a little bit of ASMR?
Oh, it's your favorite drink.
Wait for this. Can you guys guess what this is? Ready? Wait. How good does that sound? You have to do yours now.
Oh, I didn't even know you put one here.
Ready? Ready? Clap.
All right.
Oh.
Here we go.
So I am 1 week away from finishing my 1 year of being sober. And since I have been sober for a year, I have become addicted to these things called Polaris soda water. It is a soda water that you'll only ever find, I think, in Indonesia. These guys don't even have an Instagram. And if they did have an Instagram, I would be their biggest ambassador. I am obsessed with this kind of soda water. So wait, can you hear the tingles? That tingling sound is our ice cold soda water.
I love how this has just become your absolute replacement for alcoholic beverages. You've romanticized this random soda water brand. We actually bought a whole slab of these the other day, and we filled the entire fridge with like 24 of them.
Honestly, I'm
great.
Obsessed.
Abundant.
It is the best soda water. The bubbles to water ratio, it really makes me happy. It's something that I get excited about on a daily basis. My favorite thing to do is when the tides are low in Uluwatu, what we do is we get on the scooter, I pack 2 soda waters, we go down to Dreamland Beach and we just sit and chill out and lay in the ocean.
Lay in the water while we're drinking water.
While we drink an ice cold water. Am I a mermaid or am I a mermaid?
It's the little things.
It's the little things. And I think that's a big part of what we're going to get into today as well. One of our points is we're going to be talking more about how important it is as entrepreneurs to appreciate the little things and to rest and to relax. And I think that for us in recent years has become a really big part of our journey in business because we've realized that this isn't like a sprint. It's really a marathon. And I feel like if you want longevity in life and in business, you have to put your health and your wellness first. And that really means that you have to actually realize that like rest is part of the journey.
Well, I think we should just jump straight into our first gold nugget then, which is exactly this. This was meant to be number 2, but why don't we start with it?
We'll dive into it. So rest.
Rest.
Huge.
Yeah.
Not talked about enough.
No.
Not romanticized enough.
No.
Not focused on enough. And I don't think it gets as much credit as what it needs.
I think there was this really big uprising of, it was like the cult of hustle culture. You remember like the last maybe 8 years or so? It's been changing. You can really sense it's not being harped on about anymore so much. But I remember like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 years ago, there was just this whole like, if you'd make one piece of content, you can cut it into 500 pieces and then grind it out all day. And if you work 3 times as hard as somebody else, you'll get there 3 times faster. And it's like, that's cool, but there's a bunch of things here. There's a bunch of things to unpack. Number one is, do you just want to be rushing through life? Do you want to just be trying to grind it out and get to the end? Guess what? The end isn't the end. The end was the journey to the end. And I think, once again, clarifying what we define as conscious business is like, it's mindful business. It's business with a soul. It's business in alignment. It's the ability to work and create value, but to enjoy the journey as much as possible. Not always. We're not going to absolutes here, but in general, just realizing that there is a real value in not doing. And you and me, we've gone through phases where we've just worked Saturday and Sunday and then Monday to Friday, and it just keeps going. But I think especially in the last couple years, realizing that like this is a marathon. This is a marathon. And also the big takeaway really is when you think about it, we're told this idea of you got to work hard in life. And it's like, yes, absolutely. Hard work is 100% is a part of the equation, right? Going the distance, being relentless, showing up, all that stuff is definitely a part of it. But at the same time, you have to remember that when you see someone who runs a business and they've managed to amass whatever, $10 million or something over their lifetime, if you now looked at somebody else who might work a normal job, or maybe they even have another job of some sort, another business of some sort, and this person has $10,000 in the bank. Is the person with $10 million, have they worked like 100 times, 1,000 times harder than that other person? It's rarely the case, rarely if ever. There is an inverse truth there. And it's more about finding leverage. It's about compound interest. It's about outsourcing and getting help. It's about focusing on what's most important first, that is in most alignment, that has the biggest result in the long term. It's not just about blindly grinding it out and just making like almost a fetish out of how exhausted you are and how much you've wrecked yourself in the process, because that is something we do as humans. We congratulate each other on how wrecked we are. We're like, how you been? Oh, I'm so busy. God, I've just been working so hard. It's like, that's not necessarily a good thing. That isn't necessarily a good thing. That could be like, how's your car drive? Oh, great. There's a screeching sound because I drive with my handbrake on, but it drives well. It's just, I think realizing that if you're going to punch, you're going to have to first pull the arm back. Like, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You need to rest and recuperate so that you can also think clearly, so that you can do your best work, so that you can single focus on one thing at a time. I think this is why you and me also find meditation to be such a integral part, like quieting the noise inside the head so that you can then get back to it with a blank canvas, a clean slate. So you're not thinking about everything you've got to do at the same time in one way or another, but you're fully present and focused on one thing. And ideally, it's the thing that gets you the most distance with the least work first. So, yeah.
In life, I personally feel like it's not about what you do. It's more about the energy behind what you do. So you have to look at what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're trying to achieve and ask yourself, like, what is the energy that I'm putting behind the action? And if you are putting this exhausted, grinding, going, slugging energy, then that's what you're showing up with. That's what you're giving to it. And I feel like when we actually take time to step back and to rest, that's when we can actually recharge our energy. And when we go to do the things that we need to do in our business or in our life, we're going to do them with a much more aligned energy. And I feel like when we make our goal in life alignment, that's when we're going to get results.
Yep. And I mean, think about it. It's if you're thinking about your work from the perspective of like, oh my God, it's so hard. Oh, I'm just working so hard. It's like, you know, what you put out is what you get back. Then your work will be like, okay, let's keep manifesting hard situations and long days and exhausted energy. Like you get back what you put out. One of my favorite little lessons or questions to ask myself was actually something I learned at the beginning of one of Tim Ferriss's books. I think it's Tools of Titans or something, where he said in the beginning that he really wanted to write this book, but he had all this stuff going on in his life. And he's like, how do I create another work for my community? And then he asked himself this question, which is like, what would this look like if it were easy? And, you know, just to get out of this like hustle, grinding mentality. And he realized that he has such a massive network of interesting high performers. So he just spent a little bit of time and wrote an email. And in that email, he asked a whole bunch of real high value, open-ended questions. And then he blasted it out to a list of God knows how many entrepreneurs and investors and everything else. And a percentage of those wrote back and answered all the questions. He put it all together and published it as a book. And it's an amazing book. It's like you have all these gold nuggets from hundreds of super successful, intelligent, high achieving people. And it took next to no effort on his behalf compared to the effort that most people would put into writing a book. So like asking yourself, what's most important? What's most in alignment? And what would this look like if it were easy?
I love that. That's such a good action point.
Big time.
My second action point, just to extend on that, is to ask yourself in life, how is it that you rest? And I'm not talking about sitting on the couch, scrolling the gram and going through memes. I'm asking like, how is it that you really rest and rejuvenate? What is it that your soul feels recharged after? For me personally, this is the beach. This is going down to the ocean. This is literally sitting in a puddle of water with a soda water that regulates, recharges, reinvigorates me. For you, it might be climbing a mountain or getting outside or going with your dog or hanging out with your girlfriends or spending time with your family. But you have to get really clear on what is it that fills up your cup and then schedule that time and protect that time. Be a tiger with that time. Literally fiercely protect that time and make sure that you implement it into your life. Because when you are disconnected from the things that fill you up for a long time, what ends up happening? You end up serving, showing up, pushing, grinding with an empty cup. And when you have an empty cup, you're not really serving anyone and you're literally just draining yourself. So that is our first one, putting it out there. Conscious entrepreneurship, rest, recharge. Don't feel upset about resting, like romanticize resting. I'm honestly on my Instagram, if you look on my feed, I'm constantly talking about this concept of having big dreams and slow living. I want to invite and encourage and influence a culture in this day and age where you can dream big, but you can also live slow. Just because you have big dreams, because you want to achieve big things, doesn't mean that you have to always be making big moves and exhausting yourself and pushing yourself to the absolute limit. You can expand in alignment. And that expansion in alignment is going to not only feel so good to you, but it is going to feel so much better to the people around you.
Yeah, I feel like it's about your value structure, right? It's like learning to value sacred idleness. You're realizing that you're recharging. This is necessary. This is essential. It's not just like, oh, you know, some low value thing. It's not a waste of time.
I think one thing that, just before we move on, that really hit home for me on this point is when I realized that the present moment is all there ever is, and we become accustomed to what we do, and we are creatures of habit. So we're always going into repetition in our mind. I had this realization that if you do not learn to rest now on the way to success, you will not learn to rest when you reach success. There isn't this point that you get to where you become successful and all of a sudden you then become a chiller, you then become someone who doesn't care. You continue with the same energy that you've been going in. So you actually have to realize that it's not that when you get to whatever it is that you're going to want to get to, that you're going to stop and be like, okay, I'm just going to stop now. Chances are if you've been on the grind and you've been going for it and you've been hitting it, that is just the energy that you are addicted to, that you're going to just keep pushing and
It's a muscle.
You won't know how to slow down.
Yeah.
So learning how to slow down on the journey, and cliche as it sounds, literally the journey is the destination. Like your life is only ever lived in this moment. So enjoy the moment, enjoy the process, because we never know how long we've got left.
Yeah. And one of the biggest regrets of the dying is that people wish they'd allowed themselves to be happier. They wish they'd allowed themselves to follow their own path. So like get off the treadmill and realize that this is the only moment. And you're going to be performing better when you are revitalized and you're rejuvenated. And you can make those moments when you're doing that, moments that you can really enjoy, where you can really reward yourself.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast, I'm guessing that you are into manifestation, which means it's highly likely that you've made yourself a vision board before. Vision boards are super popular because they can really work. But have you heard of a vision board movie before? A vision board movie makes it easy to make use of one of the biggest manifestation secrets of them all: emotion. Why is emotion important? Because your emotions are literally energy in motion. It's a signal that you are sending out to the universe, because what you focus on expands. And when you focus on a movie of your future and you feel an elevated emotion, you can literally supercharge your attraction ability. And that's why we created Manifestie, your manifestation bestie. We spent 2 years building the manifestation app of our dreams. And with it, you can make your very own manifestation vision board movie. Manifestie makes manifesting so easy with a whole set of functions that will literally turn your phone from a distraction machine into an attraction machine. And if you love this podcast, then I know you are going to love this app. You can download it right now for free. And if you choose to subscribe, it's also one of the best ways that you can support us here at Mindspo to continue the work that we do. Find it now in both app stores by searching Manifestie. That's Manifest and then IE. And start your free trial today. Thanks so much for listening. And now let's get back to the episode.
Next point is realizing and understanding that collaboration is the key to success. And learning to play to your strengths and allowing others to play to their strengths and practicing it. It's like we live in a culture that's very focused on the individual. If you grew up in a Western country, you might have grown up in a family where your parents were encouraging you to be the best and number one and get the trophy. And we have this number one mentality. And it can lead us into this illusion of thinking that the lone wolf is the way to go. It's how you can keep all the equity and get all of the success. But you're just diminishing your own capacity and you're spreading yourself too thin. And it's so funny. We see these stories of these individuals, these like towers of achievement in culture, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, the Richard Bransons. And you can fall into the illusion that they're this one single individual that's doing it all. But if you really look closer, they'll be the first to tell you that they are not the ones doing most of the stuff. They are only able to do what they do because there are people supporting them. And so the question is, at what point should you seek to get some help? And in all honesty, it's if you are starting a business, if you are growing a business, if you are coaching people, if you're doing whatever it is you're doing, if you're finding that you're doing a lot of work that doesn't feel in alignment, that you're not doing very well, that is taking away from the most valuable part of the job because maybe you're teaching people less, you're creating less content, you're building less products, whatever it might be, because you're caught up in administration and stuff, and that's actually not what you want to be doing, then consider finding some help. And finding help before you feel ready for it. So if you're waiting for the moment when you're like, I'm really ready to hire someone now, it's probably already too late. You've probably waited way longer than you should have. Your brain may not even allow you to think about all the stuff that someone could do for you until you are literally talking to someone and you're like, what would this person's job description look like? No one is good at everything. And there are people out there who are amazing at the things that you suck at. Okay. Like the stuff that's the absolute bane of your existence is the kind of thing that somebody else is brushing their teeth to, being like, oh my God, I love numbers. I love organizing things. I love supporting others. These people exist. There's a lot of them out there, and they're looking for work. They're looking to work with inspired individuals to join the team. All I can say is, if somebody can do a job 70% as good as you should consider outsourcing that job and finding somebody who's going to be absolutely in their bliss doing that. Now, of course, hire the best people you possibly can. It's not something to save on ideally. If you are going to save more, if you want to hire somebody and only spend a tiny amount or something like that, then pay attention to passion. Somebody who's willing to learn, somebody who's hungry. That is probably the better quality to focus on than expertise necessarily. But yeah, it's just realizing that if you're going to be successful, then it's natural that your business and your services and everything would grow. And as whatever it is that you're doing is growing, your focus should become narrower and narrower and narrower as you try to make yourself obsolete, so that the only thing you're doing in the end, ideally, is the thing where you are the absolute whiz at. You're in the top 1%. No one's going to replace you at doing this thing. Like, that's when you're in your absolute bliss, your absolute flow zone. But it begins by letting someone in.
I think the point that you said here that I really want to highlight is doing this before you're ready. I feel like so many entrepreneurs and so many people in life literally wait for this feeling of being ready. And I've said this on the podcast before, ready is not a feeling, it's a decision. The thing is, there will not really ever come a point in your business where you feel necessarily ready to hire the person or make the investment. No one that we have ever hired or invested in was in a point where we felt ready. It was always a stretch in some way or form in every single stage of our business. Mindspo now has a team of like 1, 2, 3,
I think four full-timers.
4 full-timers.
And then a whole bunch of,
and then we have a whole bunch of
our app developers,
design
and studios.
And that's grown over time. Like, there were times where we struggled to pay one person, and that was like a massive stretch for us. And I think the thing that you have to realize here is, when you stop thinking about it from your point of view, the best thing that's helped me with this is, one of the most incredible things in business is when you actually realize that you giving someone a job is giving them an opportunity to make money, to support themselves, to do what they're passionate about, and then to also make a difference. And this, to me, has changed the game with hiring people so much. I'm constantly thinking about, how can I make someone's dream job a reality? What is it that I'm doing that is not my forte, that isn't my dream, that isn't filling me up, that I can give to someone else that is like, you know what, Rochelle, I love spreadsheets. I love looking at analytics. I love looking at the metrics. And I'm like, all right, babe, you've got a job, you know? Or my accountant who's just like, I really love analyzing where you're overspending and canceling subscriptions for you. I'm like, great, amazing. I'm so excited for you. Or someone that's like, you know, I love taking all your videos and putting them in short form or doing this. Like, there are so many people out there that have an absolute passion for all these specific things that we are now required to do in a business, especially a digital business. And when you can push yourself to employ those people and to give them opportunities, not only is it going to free up time for you, but it is also going to bring in other people's minds that are going to think differently to you, that are going to add things to the table. And that's the most exciting thing, because these people, they're not you. And that's the beautiful thing. A lot of people have this thing, I feel like, with entrepreneurship, oh, no one could do it because they're not me. It's like, exactly. That's why someone else should do it, because they're not you. And you need more people in your business thinking about the problems that you're trying to solve that aren't you. Because how do we get better? We get better through collaboration, through coming together. I think that's this arrogant thing that we can have as entrepreneurs. And I've definitely been in this, where no one can do this as good as me. No one gets it. It's okay. Maybe there are some things that you really understand, but you are not the one giant mind, the all-seeing oracle of everything. And I feel like when we can open ourselves up to collaboration, it just creates such change. a really good action point for this, if you're listening to this, is one of the first things that we ever did in our business is we went and hired a Filipino VA. So there's a job site called onlinejobs.ph, which is a Filipino company. And there are so many people in the Philippines that are basically, they have like an American education system. So their English is really good. They're incredible at customer service. They know lots of admin tasks. They understand spreadsheets and Excel, customer service. Super trustworthy. Most of them are Christian.
Onlinejobs.ph is also really great because they have a bunch of like tests and stuff built into the platform, so you can see like percentage points and scores and you can.
It was incredible. And our first ever employee was called Hazel, and she was from the Philippines. Yep. And it was so incredible to be able to hire her. At the time, what we were paying her felt like, oh yeah, we can achieve this. And through hiring Hazel, that was our catalyst to hire everyone else that we've hired. We now have people that our team are mainly European, so we have Katie, who is from the UK, who spends a lot of time in Bali. We have Inez, who works for us, who's worked with me for 6 years, who edits this podcast, who I love and adore and is my favorite person in the world. Inez is from Portugal. And then we have Annalise, who's come on to our team in the last year, who is from the Netherlands, and Chang in Vietnam.
And Mo
Mo in Lahore,
Pakistan.
Who works on Manifestie. Like, we have a completely international team.
Sure.
And
Yuri in Croatia.
Andrew in the Ukraine.
Ajmir now, our quality assurance
customer
agent.
Service for Manifestie,
Yep.
who is there ironing out all the bugs and tech problems. But I think this idea of outsourcing is, if you were scared of it, I can tell you now, take the leap and just do it.
Yep.
Go and hire your first VA. Go and work with people. Just give people little tiny tasks that feel uncomfortable for you to pass over, and just trust them.
Ideally, don't hire yourself. Watch out for the cognitive trap of hiring people who you really get along with, and oh my God, they're just like me, and we vibe on such a level. Like, don't get me wrong, it might work depending on whatever it is you're doing, but ideally, you want to hire people who help you with your shortcomings and your weaknesses. If you really want to go deep down into this, then utilize personality tests, get familiar with those, because people will tell you what they're good at, but sometimes they don't even know what they're really good at. And they might be like, I'm amazing at customer service, but that could be because they had a customer service job that was really easy and their manager praised them all day long. But really, they're a pretty mediocre customer service person. They'd be much better with analytics or something. So if you do personality tests, they do give you a much more accurate picture, and you can figure out what kind of job role requires what kind of personality type. And then you can see where people sit. Because like, honestly, this planet, so many people are sitting in the wrong jobs and they're wondering why every day feels like pain. And it's just because it's a mismatch. There's something that you're amazing at and you're just not utilizing that. If you really want to just increase your chances of having like a home run with every hire, then like spend the time to figure out how these personality types fit into different types of roles. The funny thing is, even a lot of human resources companies that do the hiring for you, they don't even utilize this, which is wild. It's such an underutilized factor. So yeah.
I honestly,
there's a bunch of different tests you can do.
Hiring people, it's the biggest leap that you'll make in your business, especially if you're first like starting out.
And it's meant to feel uncomfortable.
It's meant to feel uncomfortable. It'll be the most rewarding thing. And I can tell you now, through having a conscious business and growing multiple businesses, the joy of my business is the people that I work with. Sure. They are what make our companies, and they are really the motivation for me. Also, I think from a spiritual and conscious level, like when you realize that not only are you there to serve your customers, you're obviously there to serve yourself and to look after yourself, to earn money, to be able to do the things that you want to do. But when you become responsible for a team, oh my gosh, it is a kick up your ass. You're like, okay, I really need to start looking at things because you are all of a sudden responsible for someone else's income. And I think that is a really beautiful thing. We don't have kids, right? So we are very much lone wolves. We don't have many dependents, but I feel like my team, I'm not going to call my team my children, but I do feel very responsible for helping them and helping them grow. And I think that when you start to realize that it's not just about you and you can actually contribute to the world in such a big way by giving people their dream job,
100%.
It's epic. All right, last one for today. We're going to talk about excluding to include. And This one is interesting. I feel like we are living in a time and a space and a reality where there is a big focus on inclusion. And it's really important to be inclusive, to basically allow people to be seen in media and in marketing, and to really create a space where everyone feels like there is something for them. But I do feel like sometimes this idea of we have to be for everyone gets stuck into the psyche of business owners, where they feel like they have to be talking to everyone and everything at all times. And this can actually suffocate you in a business sense. And what it can actually lead to is you actually not really serving anyone. I'll give you an example of this. If you are a mum that has just had kids and you have learned how to look after your postpartum body and really create an incredible program for postpartum bodies, right? For people that have just gone through pregnancy and are coming home to themselves, recovering their pelvic floor and everything. If you obviously you can tell that I haven't done that before with my language that I use. I haven't been a pregnant woman. But if you basically had this program that you created, and instead of actually marketing it to mums that have just gone through birth and are learning to come home to themselves and recover their body, you instead marketed this product to everyone who wanted to tone up and to look after themselves and to create strength and to create strong abs, you're probably not really going to be getting that many people, because there are loads of programs out there for people that want to create strength and health and look after their abs. If you instead marketed that product to the problem that you are able to solve, the transformation that you have had within yourself, and you got really specific about it, what's going to happen? A mom that has just had a kid is going to be scrolling on their Instagram feed, and they're going to be like, oh, finally, someone's created a program for me, for my specific thing that I've gone through. And then you're actually going to create a really strong bond with someone who will probably end up becoming your customer. That is an example of excluding to include. And I think that people are quite scared of this. They're quite scared of getting specific. They feel like I have to be broad. I have to be for everyone. I have to speak to everyone. And it's like, if you are for everyone, then chances are you're for no one, unless you're selling vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, I think something to realize is that being not very specific when you're creating and when you're marketing and when you're bringing something out there to the market to solve a problem is so common and so easy. It's like step one, right? You're like, I'm going to make a fitness program. All right, fitness. Okay, I'm going to do push-ups and chin-ups and whatever. And then you put it out there and you wonder why it's crickets and nobody's noticing anything, right? It's like we're lazy like that. We are lazy and we build things for ourselves first. So we're like, oh, of course everyone's going to get what I'm trying to do here, right? Yeah, this is great. It's like the lesson here really is that the more specific you can get, the more powerful your program, product, whatever it is, service, whatever it is you're making, like spend the time. And this is such basic shit. You always hear this. It's figure out who you're talking to.
No one does it. Like,
but
hardly
it's
anyone
like
does it.
people treat this like boring homework.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it is homework, right? It's like before you go and create whatever it is you're going to create, the more time you spend to actually figure out who the hell am I talking to? What is the problem I'm trying to solve? And not just what do I think is the problem I'm trying to solve? Like, no. Talk to people who actually have the problem. If you don't know what you want to do yet, figure out a bunch of problems. Talk to people who have those problems until you notice intuitively that like one of them stands out. Like, oh, that one. Maybe it's obviously one way you can do this is if you're creating something for a past version of yourself. If you're like, oh, I used to have this problem. I figured out this solution. I did a program. I did a course. I had this big download. Then it can be a little bit easier because you can remember what it felt like to be the customer, to be the person who had that problem. But you want to get really, really specific. And for instance, there's all these like step one mistakes that people will just make. Number one is, I'm going to show off with like how I talk about this. Don't do that. You don't need to flex with the language. No one wants to hear about how magnificent your service is. People want to hear what the words are that are inside of their own head.
Yes.
So you got to figure out, what are people saying inside of their head? Go and post some surveys, do some interviews, read the comments under social posts, follow pages about this problem. Start seeing the patterns. It's, oh, okay, I can see that. Like, most people, when they describe this problem, use these exact words. Okay, that's you doing your homework. Now you can be like, okay, when I write my big headline in my sales page, when I come up with my first hook in my sales video, I'm going to use the exact words that people are echoing inside of their brain, so that that person goes, whoa, hang on a minute. This is for me. This guy's talking to me.
And I want to say here, what I think why this is a conscious business hack is so many people have this idea that, oh, I have to be for everyone. And when you try and be for everyone and solve everyone's problems, then you're probably not creating that deeper of a transformation. Yeah. So when you can really start to narrow in on who is that specific person, what is the specific pain points that they are having, what are the problems you are solving, then you are actually showing up so much more from like a heart-centered place of, I really know what you're going through. Yeah. I can really help. And don't be afraid in business to actually turn away people.
Yeah.
And I think people are so petrified of this. And we've learned this in retreats and in so many different things that we've done, coaching programs. There are things that people will come to me being like, oh, can you solve this problem? I will happily turn around and reply to someone and say, I actually don't think my services are for you. Because as a heart-led business, do I feel like I can guide someone through a really specific trauma incident that they're going through right now where they're in a recovery from a drug and alcohol thing? Is that my area of expertise? No, that's not what I can help you with right now. So rather than just being like, yeah, of course I can help you, I'll actually say, no, but hey, here is this other place that can. We have people comment all the time, why don't you do men's retreats? Where are the men's retreats? Where is the stuff for men? Why are you just for women? And the simple answer is because we've narrowed in on women and we're very specific about
doubling down on what
serving
works.
Women.
Yeah.
And I can direct you to so many different men's retreats, men's centers that I recommend that are great, but these are not for men. And I think people get nervous in this cultural space to actually exclude. And there's this idea that everything is for everyone. And I think that it's beautiful that we have had this cultural shift, but at the same time, it comes
from a good place.
No, but at the same time, I think the cultural shift is incredible.
Yeah.
But I think the backswing and the danger is that when you start saying you can help or serve people that you actually aren't in a position or an area of expertise to help and serve. So you have to get specific about what is my bandwidth? Who can I actually create transformation in? What do I know? If you aren't trained in something and someone comes to you and they want that transformation, don't say, yeah, I can help. Don't be the personal trainer that says, I can really help you train your body after you've been pregnant, but you've never worked with someone who is postpartum. You've never done that training. I think it's so important to understand that and to not try and just say, I can help everyone, when you really can't.
Yeah. You think that you're doing everyone a service by being so open and so accepting, but what it comes at the cost of deep connection, because you can't deeply connect with everyone at the same time while you're trying to solve a specific problem. Like, you shouldn't try to find 10 different customers. Ideally, you find one customer and then you find 10 of that one customer.
Yeah.
And this doesn't mean your entire business needs to revolve around one tiny little niche or something, but each thing you create ideally has one individual in mind, one person, one story, one experience, one transformation. And then you build the entire journey from the beginning to after, whatever it is that you're trying to facilitate. You build everything around that one individual person. You keep that one person in mind, and that's who you're speaking to on the other side of the lens. If you're making some piece of content, some ad, some sales video, you're talking to that one individual. And then that's how you're going to create the biggest transformation. That's going to clarify your thinking as well. It's going to clarify what you spend your money on, who you're targeting with your ads.
It's going to help you go deeper as an expert in your field to really narrow in and be like, I know how to provide a transformation for this person going through this thing, because then you will become a specific expert in it. And I want to say one thing before you go on. I think if this stresses you out, because I think The reason why people do this is because they're worried about exclusion. They're worried about not being able to help everyone, so they just want to say yes to everyone. They want to people please. If you're worried about that, I totally get it. What you need to do is you need to figure out the people that are coming to you that want help or want assistance or want your product that you actually can't serve, that isn't really for them. Find a product or find a service or find a person that solves that person's problem. So for example, I have a bunch of men's retreats saved in my phone. So when someone comes to me and messages me saying, I want a men's retreat, why don't you do men's retreats? I'm so annoyed that you're only doing women. Isn't that a bit sexist? I go, hi. Here are some men's retreats. Or if someone comes to me and they're like, I want this specific thing for trauma. And I go, I don't think I'm the right person to guide you with that. I'll go, here are some great facilitators that do that. And I think if you can find solutions to people's problems that don't have to be, you can just pass that on and just know that that's part of your service.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do that. But I think that if it worries you, then just find their solution for them and just pass it on with love.
I want to give an example that kind of illustrates how the more specific you can be and the more you actually exclude in that sense, right? By including, you are excluding. The more specific you can be, the more valuable something will become, right?
Yes.
So imagine you are a personal trainer and you want to create a program. You're like, I want to create a program, help people get fit. Okay, so you make a workout program, a 6-week workout program with the goal of creating more muscle mass and being a little more lean and flexibility and whatever else, right? Cool. So you make this 6-week program, you put in a bunch of exercises and you release it out into the world. And here is my 6-week transformation, health and fitness program. Well, guess what? There's 10,000 other programs out there. So the perceived value will be how much? $69, $49, $100, sounds about right. Okay. Will most people resonate with it? Probably not. It doesn't really have much oomph to it. Okay. Now let's say you got a little more specific. You said, all right, you know what? There are people who stand up all day long and certain tendons atrophy and certain things stiffen up. And I want to talk to those people specifically. So now I've made a program, which is a 6-week transformation program, flexibility and muscle mass for shift workers, people who stand in work, specifically maybe nurses, for instance. You say nurses in hospitals, they're standing up all day long, they're getting back pains and aches and stuff. Okay, cool. So now you've made a 6-week program for shift nurses. Guess what? The program is exactly the same. It's basically exactly the same stuff. But now you're speaking to people in a specific industry. All right, now this program is about $299. And people in those jobs would be like, wow, wonderful, you're speaking to me specifically. Now imagine you went one level deeper and you said, all right, I've made a 6-week transformation program, flexibility and muscle mass and health and vitality for shift workers, specifically women over the age of 50. So 50 plus nurses, shift workers, people who work in shops, who stand up all day long. This is your program, specifically 6 weeks. You could charge $600 for that program quite easily. And guess what? Those people would be like, oh my God, finally someone's got me in mind. You could make all your marketing specific to that person. You could you could go to shops and ask people like, hey, you stand up all day long. How long have you been doing this job? Oh, 15 years. It's like, do you have any specific pains? Oh yeah, my God, my back is always kicking. I'm trying to sit down. You can figure out exactly what those people's stories are. And you can also cater the program specifically because you'll find out that there are little nuances to the problem that you can now serve them much, much better. But yeah, it's just this, you don't need to target. If you're trying to target 100% of the market, you're targeting absolutely no one. And but the more specific you can be.
Yeah, and I think the more specific you are, the more fun you have with your business. Like the more specific I've gotten with all our different ventures, like the customer avatar for Manifestie, it's a more spiritual, esoteric customer avatar who likes Abraham Hicks and likes to go down Joe Dispenza and is really into personal development and is a little bit more on that. Like honestly, esoteric. The Mindspo customer is someone who's interested in personal development and spirituality, but maybe they're still living like a a grounded life with 9 to 5, but they're interested in these topics and they feel like they want a community and they're looking for people and they're wanting to dive deeper. They're wanting to have conversations. Mindspo Retreats is someone who's wanting to go solo travel. It's a female that is in this point in her life that really wants to find herself and come home to herself. Like, we have all these different niches, and it allows me to really dive deep and get excited about who is this person? What are the pain points they're going through? And rather than just using normal, like, day-to-day language, I'm able to really have fun with the copywriting and the videos and the editing and the lights and the style, because I'm speaking to that person. I'm creating an energy and an essence for that person. And I think that when you can get more specific, you can actually be of more service. And I think that you will actually find that you feel more of service because you're able to create deeper transformation in people. When you try and be for everyone and you do everything for everything, and then you're just trying to, like, basically people please to everyone, chances are, like, your reviews won't be that good, because someone will come and they'll be like, oh, this wasn't for me. And it's like, well, because probably it wasn't meant for you and the person didn't have you in mind, and you would have been so much better going to this other thing. So I think that it's such a nuanced thing. And I feel when we are in that trying to please everyone, trying not to get criticized, people pleaser kind of energy, this idea of trying to be everything for everyone comes up in business. And the more you can get specific, the more you can have fun with your customer avatar, the more you can dive into something and do that boring piece of work that you hear in every single business course. What is your customer avatar? Like, honestly, the best thing we have ever done in our businesses at the beginning was, actually, it wasn't at the beginning. It was kind of when we were reinventing our businesses, was to go back and be like, what is their name? What do they do? Who are they? What do they like? What do they dislike? And let's just talk to that person. And will there be people that aren't that person that are interested in the things that we're doing? Yeah. Of course, but it becomes so much easier when you get specific, and you also get specific in who you are and what you do to help one person and to solve that problem. You're going to have such a big transformation. There we go. I hope you enjoyed volume 2. If you want a volume 3, make sure to let us know to keep doing conscious business. Be sure to shout out this episode on social media. If you listened and enjoyed, just tag us on stories. I'm at Rochelle_Fox. Soll is at Chris Soll. And then Mindspo is at Mindspo. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining me for this episode. You can discover more from Mindspo on Instagram and TikTok by following at Mindspo and myself at Rochelle_Fox. If this episode inspired you, then please pass it on and share the love. And if you're new to our world and you want to elevate your mind and step into your best self, then be sure to download our app, Manifestie, from the App Store and take advantage of the free trial. With Manifestie, you can create your own vision board movies, practice powerful meditations, and set affirmation reminders so your phone supports your journey towards that abundant vision of your future. And lastly, always remember, you create your own reality. So go and make some magic.